Auburn Duesenberg would not have survived 1932. So it was a natural progression. The one thing that fascinated me, I'm an historian by education, fascinated me about Duesenberg was, number one, because of Fred Duesenberg. And it was E.O. Cord whose idea of knowledge is, but it was Fred Duesenberg that was the engineer. But because of Fred Duesenberg, it is a wonderful, high-performance, fast automobile in a day when nothing was comparable. But secondarily, the provenance on every one of those cars tells a fascinating story. Every one of these Duesenberg here tells a fascinating story. The Murphy convertible stand in the middle, the original owner, Cedric Gibbons, designed the Academy Award. So, you know, there's just fascinating stories that go with every, and I can tell that about all these other cars.
So they weren't bought by poor people.
No, sir. No, sir. And they were fast and furious. This Murphy convertible balloon here went to South America, but he also had a home in Paris. So it was originally in Europe, and then he took it to South America. It came out of South America in the 50s. So they all have fascinating stories.
So that's so amazing. Yeah. My Mustangs didn't have that kind of stories. So a win at Pebble Beach is considered the highest award, other than this event, but for a classic car. Is restoring a car for Pebble different than restoring it for other shows?
Well, we always took our customers on what they wanted to do. And my thing was always I wanted it to be authentic and original, and I wanted it to do and run and drive like it did when it was new. So it was always up to the customers for us to do Pebble. But once we found out that we could do Pebble, then they all more and more came to us with that project. And unfortunately, Pebble is kind of like steroids for classics. You know, you got to make it better than the last guy. It's not a matter of making it what it was new. It's got to be better than new. So Pebble Beach is a challenge, yes.
All right. What was your toughest restoration?
Well, we did a armor-plated 1940 Mercedes-Benz 770K that was given by Hitler to Mannerheim, head of occupied Finland, and it came in 2 million pieces.
Oh, wow.
150.
Sounds worse than the Elva that I'm restoring right now.
156 pieces of armor plate that were stacked. And you couldn't pick them up with a forklift. They were that heavy. So, yeah, it was a real challenge. But, yeah, we won our classic Pebble with that, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, presenting cars there is a lot of pressure. I mean, and the people that present cars there are probably fairly demanding.
You know, one time when we went with that 770, we went with our customer, General William Lyon, and we flew up with him in his Gulfstream 4. And I knew if we didn't win, that I would be walking back. So yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah,
of
I've heard
pressure.
stories
Yeah.
about people smashing stuff, people yelling.
Chris is the one that'll probably tell you those stories more than
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah, and
It's
some
a
of these,
little bit intense.
you know, when you get Fortune 500, Forbes 400 guys that are used to winning,
Yeah, they're used
and
to
they
winning.
know their field that they can win in, they assume that they can win in anything.
Yeah.
And so educating them for that purpose gets to be a real challenge.
Winners win, period.
Yeah, and so, yeah, no, it can get ugly. Yeah, it can get ugly. And as you're sitting there competing, it can get ugly.
So, it's widely known that you're friends with Jay Leno. Before we get into that, I want to talk to you about your relationship with Jay. I want to tell a quick Jay Leno Duesenberg story. Now, you didn't think I'd be able to pull one of those out, right? So last time I was out there, I've known him for years, and he shows me around as usual and tells me what he's working on, and he asked me if I want to go to lunch, and I said, well, yeah, sure. And I said, the only thing is, as you know, he will not let you pay for anything. So I said, you need to let me pay for lunch this time. And he says, okay, we'll go to Chick-fil-A. And I said, dude, I'm not, you know, wealthy like you, but I can afford a little bit better than Chick-fil-A.
He won't eat anything better than
No, he eats crap. And the end of the story is even worse. But so he asked me, do you want to go to lunch in Duesenberg? And I said, well, of course, I would never go to lunch in anything less than a Duesenberg. So we're driving. Again, I didn't know how weird my life was going to get, but I'm driving with Jay Leno and a Duesenberg to lunch to a Chick-fil-A. And I kind of, you know, you don't tell Jay Leno stuff. You kind of hint that. I said, you know, I don't know about a little town like Los Angeles, but in a big town like Ormond Beach, Florida, where I live, the Chick-fil-A at lunch is absolute madness. It's just crazy. I don't even think it's that good, but somehow they are mobbed. And I said, you know, Jay, we may struggle a little bit with a 90-foot-long Duesenberg in the drive-through line at Chick-fil-A. He goes, nah, we'll be fine. And we get there, and so he ends up blocking traffic on a busy road, and I'm looking around going, Jesus, is this really the way I'm going to die in a Duesenberg at a Chick-fil-A with Jay Leno? And finally he looks at me and says, you know, Tim, maybe you're right. Maybe we should go somewhere else a little quieter. I said, oh, thank God. No, it was a hot dog stand. Yeah, you've been there, right? So we're waiting in line at the... Yeah.
Nice.
So we're waiting in line at the hot dog stand. You know, he stands in line like everybody else, and he shows me his phone, and he shows me the jet that John Travolta just got loaned by Boeing. Apparently they're going the private aviation business. So I'm standing in line in a hot dog stand with Jay Leno, and he's showing me pictures of a Boeing 707, and we get up to the counter, and he asked me, he says, geez, Tim, you know, I ordered some French fries. He says, Tim, would you mind sharing those with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure, Jay, I'll share my French fries with you. But just a weird, and you know what I'm saying is true, because that's the way he is. I mean, that's how down to earth he is. So tell us a little bit about your stories with Jay Leno.
Well, whenever I've ever gone anywhere to eat with him, I know I'm only going to get half the sandwich done before he's finished, and then he's sitting there doing this. You know? Okay, let's go. Come on, let's go. And he won't say anything. He's always a gentleman. I mean, I will have to say with Leno, if the world were full of Jay Lenos, we would have a wonderful world, absolutely wonderful world. But yeah, okay, now let's go. You know, so yeah, his eating habits are rather different. So the main question you left off there is, which Duesenberg?
It was a Roadster. He's got
Green?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
J405. Okay.
Yeah.
very good.
That one.
Yeah.
I was just testing you.
Yeah, J4.
All right. So you know everyone in this industry, but other than Jay, are people at this end of the hobby fun to hang out with, or are they a bit stuffy and aloof?
Can I plead to the fifth?
No. I figured this would be a good one.
Who wrote that question?
That was me. That was me.
you.
No, I mean, as a regular guy, I'm very involved with the regular side of things. It's just an inside look at what that high-end looks like. I think, would you guys like to know about this? Or are you guys those guys?
I can only say that there are some that are absolute enthusiasts, and there are some that do it because they don't know what else to do. You know, they have more money than brains, and they don't know what else to do. We're very, very fortunate to have today some Forbes 400 guys that are really into cars and have been forever. But there are some that, gee, you know, I got boats, I got planes, I got jets. Maybe I'll play with cars. And Jay is the one that'll tell you about this. But they really don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. But gee, maybe that'd be fun, because they're not necessarily having fun. And so it's not always fun to deal with it. But I was always very careful who I kind of picked and choose who I worked for. And I will have to say I was very fortunate with the customers.
Yeah, Jay has told me stories about judging it at Pebble and how he hated it and how people stomped their feet and tore up the hotel rooms, and he always told me, it's like, geez, it sucks being just a regular millionaire trying to compete against all these billionaires. But all right, so you've met many of these icons. Tell us about hanging out with guys like Gordon Buehrig and Dutch Darrin. I know Dutch's nephew, but I never met him.
Dutch was an absolute character. I got to know Alex Tremulous first, and then I met Dutch. And Alex had wonderful stories about Dutch. The Ford Motor guys, and Dutch would do side work. He was a consultant. And Dutch would come in, and they quite often met at the Dearborn Inn. And Alex told me one time that Dutch walked in behind some real cute girl. And apparently it got his fancy, and he followed her right into the women's restaurant. So, but Alex Tremulous, who worked for Ford and retired from Ford Motor Company, worked for the Chicago branch, designing Duesenberg stuff real early on. Of course, his most famous thing is the Tucker. But Gordon Buehrig was a very kind, gentle soul, very soft-spoken, had a very high-pitched voice. I met him in high school. He actually came to my home on several occasions when I was in high school. And he had, was given by Glenn Prey, who built the little 8/10 chords and later the 866 Auburns. He had one of those, and I took care of it for him. I was his maintenance guy. And he actually lent it to me for grad night in high school. So very, very fond memories. He is buried in Auburn, Indiana, next to his first wife, which he met in Auburn when he went there in '34 to work for Auburn. And I always go by and say hello to him when I'm there. So wonderful, wonderful guy.
That's cool. I've stayed at the Dearborn Inn. I'll get to the next question here, but that reminded me. I've met a lot of people, as you have, and I've never been nervous. But I had a meeting with the president of Ford and Jim Farley, and my dad was a Ford dealer. My grandfather was a Ford dealer, and to be able to be in the president's office at Ford, and I mean, like I said, I've met a lot of people. Not many people scare me or make me nervous, and that's Chris Farley, the actor's cousin, and real car guy, races a Cobra and stuff. But so we sit down, and I'm pretty much shaking, and I start to explain what our magazines are about, and he looks me in the eye and says, "Tim, let's not spend any time on that. I read both magazines cover to cover every month, and we'll get on with the next thing." The rest of the meeting went better, but you're mentioning Dearborn Inn. I had to say something about that. But all right, so you are I understand you're the repository and archivist for thousands of original drawings and documents from Duesenberg, Auburn, and Cord. Can you tell us about what you have and how you acquired it and how you use them in your restorations? You were waiting for this one, weren't you?
This can get involved. So wait, if I get a chance to nap, go ahead, guys. Any of you that need it. Wait, do you have pillows for them? Okay.
These seats aren't that comfortable.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
need blankets.
No blankets needed now. In 1979 or 80, not sure exact year, I ended up buying everything, the paper that Glenn Prey had. Now, Glenn had never ever looked at it. He had bought Auburn and Cord in Auburn, Indiana from Dallas Winslow and moved it all to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so he bought all the tons of original parts that were Auburn and Cord, and he didn't realize it, but most of the drawings were in fact Duesenberg. So I bought that collection, and then I had always been very close to a gentleman by the name of Marshall Merkes, and Marshall Merkes had bought Duesenberg in '46 from Dallas Winslow in Auburn, Indiana. So upon his passing, I had bought all of his material. I actually had bought all of his early Duesenberg stuff prior to that, but upon his passing, I bought everything. So then I had all the purchasing records, the correspondence files, roughly 28,000 original Duesenberg drawings starting in about 1919, 1920. I had all the race car assembly drawings, but I didn't have the small part drawings. I didn't know quite why I didn't have those, and later found that out, and I'll explain that. But I also have the purchasing records, as I mentioned, the correspondence files. I have all the factory photograph albums that I know of. I have 1,800 8x10 factory negatives. And unfortunately, because of my history involvement, I went around way back when in '72 and spent a summer in graduate school in Auburn, Indiana, and then traveling all over the Midwest, talking to anybody that ever had anything to do with any of the companies. So I have a pretty good picture of the overall. There are only 3 collections of drawings. My 28,000 drawings, plus I have about 5,000 Auburn, 5,000 Cord, and I have 10,000 Lycoming drawings. But the only other collection is there's about 2,000 small part drawings at the Indy 500 Museum, and my wife and I cataloged those for them and organized them, and they're race car only, pretty much race car only. And there's about 300 prints at the ACD Museum that they got from one of the engineers that passed down to them. And I have about 15,000 prints.
This seems like a lot of material for 478 cars.
Yeah, well, actual number's 480 weight, but you have to understand the Model A is 650, the Model X is roughly 14. You had 2 prototype Model Ys. Model H was drawn but never built, and then the J. So yes.
All right. I understand you completed your last restoration, which again was first in class at Pebble. You've now retired. So, what are your future plans?
Play. Play.
You're going to come to Ironstone every year.
Yeah.
I think I am too. I like this place.
Yeah. I have 46 cars right now. I have 35 at home. Most of them at home run and drive. But I'm finding that they don't always run and drive. So I think I'm going to be
Tell
busy.
me about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Only when you're trying to show them to somebody or something. Right?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to be busy. I maintain my shop, so I have a full-on machine shop and everything there, and I have a service bay at my house. So,
You know, I'm just configuring a new garage at my place and trying to figure out how to fit cars like Alfa Romeo Spiders and Lotus Salons, and I'm thinking, how the heck? I mean, you gotta have an awfully big garage if it's all full of Duesenbergs.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. I only have 2 Model 8 Duesenbergs. So, you know, it's a 2-story garage. But it's on the side of a hill. So, one half goes out the back, the other half goes out the front. So.
Oh, cool. So, do you have some bucket list events and things you want to do now that you've got a little more time?
Well, you know, we've been fortunate to be able to travel all through the years. I don't think either one of us has anything that we definitely have a bucket list. We've done most of the things we ever wanted to do, to go and have and own and play with. So we're both history degrees, so we can just go hang and look at stuff anywhere. But at the same time, we don't really have a bucket list of things to do ahead of us.
Yeah, I think we're blessed in this world. Hot Rod did a story, like 100 things you have to do before you die, and I read through the list, and I'd done like 70 or 75 of them. And I think, you know, in our industry, we just get to do a lot of this kind of stuff and get to know a lot of these kind of people. So in light of your experience, kind of a tough question, what's your favorite car of all time?
Well, the one, you know, I don't have a Model J, and yes, I would have to say a Model J is, because of its ability to run and drive. I have an Auburn, couple Auburn 12s, and I love driving those. The engine was designed by Fred Duesenberg, so it will rev. It's a 4,000 RPM motor. Back in the day when almost everything was 2,000 RPM. So with a 2-speed rear axle, so I mean I can run 65 in second gear and over 100 in high. So it's quite a road car, and I have some of those that I drive quite a bit, and I don't necessarily putt with them. So
yeah, I've got a 29 Ford, and the first time I was in a Duesenberg, it just shocked me for the same era how something could be. I mean, it drives, it's like a modern car. I mean, it's smooth, it's quiet, it's comfortable, it's fast. It's like, you know, I knew it was better than a Ford, you know, because it's a little more expensive, but I didn't know it was a million times better than a Ford at that same time period. So, all right, what advice do you have for both young people interested in getting into car collecting and seasoned collectors?
Well, I can only say the same thing I tell everybody when they're looking at whatever it is they're looking at. Follow your passion. What is it you like? If it is Packard, that's what you should do. If it is Duesenberg, if it is Model T Ford, follow your passion. Whatever it is you like, that's what you should buy and enjoy. You know, don't worry about whether it's going to make money or not make money on it. Don't worry about, you know, its investor value. Just go play it and enjoy it. Take your passion and play with it.
Yeah, if you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason. So, all right, is there anything else you'd like to tell us or leave us with before we start a question and answer session?
Well, I will point out that one of my hobbies around car shows is giving people a hard time. And I do, I will admit that I do enjoy doing this. So I need to explain to you that paybacks are a bitch. And I'm aware right now I'm on a hot seat. And I'm looking out, and I know a lot of these faces, and I am aware that I'm going to get nailed. So be prepared. We'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions? All right, sir.
Hi, Randy. I was wondering how.
Did you seed the audience?
I was wondering how.
I got to pay him later. Be nice.
All right. What's your question?
The question is, I was wondering how Jay Leno found you.
We were actually showing at a Grand Classic this center Murphy convertible sedan, and he came up and started talking to me and said, you know, we just started talking, and it was ironic. A friend of mine was there, a Cadillac dealer from Fullerton by the name of Rennick, and I excused myself for after a half hour of talking to Jay. I didn't really pay attention to what his name was or who he was. And I walked over to my Cadillac friend, and he says, "Oh my God, there's Jay Leno." And I said, "Who's Jay Leno?" So it was shortly after that, I guess I gave him my card. He called me and said he had bought a LeBaron Fit, and could he send it to me? And we went from there. Oh, it was over 30 years. Yeah, 35 years ago. I think we did. You know, I counted up last night because I had told Tim that I thought it was over 20, but I think it's right at 20 cars we've done for him through the years. So
you're done? So the first time was when I was starting to get to know him, he called our office, and the person that answered the phone hung up on him and comes to me and says, "Oh, some idiot that says Jay Leno just called." I said, "That was probably Jay Leno." Oh God, I can't believe I did that.
I'll get it, Tim. I'll get it.
I don't know what it's doing here. Wait a minute, it's full of liquor. We need this. So, all right, do we have more questions? Sir?
one of my favorites.
Let's repeat the question, please.
Yeah, Chris is asking what is my favorite car, and I would have to say one of my favorite all-time designs is the Brun Torpedo Fit, and it is gone. But it is just a stunning car. It was actually a system where the original owner, who was a 21-year-old kid, Mark Lawrence, sat down with Gordon Buehrig, and they drew out what it was he wanted. And then they consigned the body to Brun, Buehrig gave him the drawings, all the dimensional drawings, and they built the whole car and presented it to Mark Lawrence in a J form, and later he added an SJ. There was a little bit of an indication of his driving characteristics because he rolled the Legrand Duesenberg Fit with Buehrig and his dates in it in Indy when it was a new car. So, and that's ultimately what happened to the Brun. It ended up in a ditch. So, yeah. Any other questions? Oh, come on, no paybacks? I'm delighted.
Go ahead.
Come on, Rob, I thought for sure I was going to get nailed. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if you ever had any Duesenbergs with calm go fasters.
Unfortunately, I probably didn't hear that.
Did you ever have any Duesenbergs with chrome go fasters?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Go ahead.
As a professional restorer, what are some of the challenges that you've overcome in terms of finding, making these parts?
You have to have a lathe.
Yeah. A lot of restoration shops are paint shops. Fortunately, we handled everything. I had some wonderful staff that could make anything from by hand with a lathe, a mill, a drill press, and a welding torch. So we did one Duesenberg coupe for Leno. We didn't have the body. All we had was the chassis, no sheet metal. And we built the original body back onto the car. It is a reproduction body. It will never be the original, but it was exactly like what it was when we built it. The problem, one of the biggest hazards in restoration business is, of course, how come it's costing so much? Why does it cost so much? And I agree, I understand that totally. From a customer standpoint, I totally understand that. But we don't know what we're getting into until we're into it. And then in many cases, we can't find somebody to make it. We got to make it ourselves. So it becomes a real challenge. And I'll have to be honest with you, I don't miss that challenge. Yeah, I don't miss that.
Wait a minute, there's no catalog of Duesenberg suppliers?
I have...
There's no Moss Motors for Duesenbergs?
I have over 1,000 of the original patents. And I have all the drawings. So, but it's still hard these days to even find a foundry to cast them, or somebody to inject the molds, or cast the rubber parts, because I have all those original molds, but it's hard to get it done.
relative to that, Randy, do you ever use 3D printers for any of this?
You know, fortunately, Jay was given the use of a 3D printer, and I think he ultimately was given the 3D printer. So yes, there were a few things on that Duesenberg coupe that we did for Leno that we did 3D print, because I didn't have the patterns. Like, he 3D printed patterns for the headlight brackets. I didn't have them.
Yeah, he was awfully proud of that. He showed
Oh,
it to
yeah.
me.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
goes, oh
Yeah.
God, look
Yeah.
at this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
So, and his big sheet plasma cutter too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He loves those toys. Yeah.
Yes.
I was wondering, restoration businesses seem to be far and few these days. What your thoughts are to the future of that occupation?
Well, there are a few shops that are up and coming. Don't necessarily have any track record yet. Yes, you were correct. Most of the old shops are gone now.
You know, the problem is every restoration shop I talk to, it's staffing. Just trying to find good people.
Good people is a real problem. And there are a bunch of shops that are around that painting oriented. But total restoration, I don't know anybody here. Tom, do you know anybody in California that's doing restoration work anymore? I don't know any shop that's open right now that's doing total restoration work. Right now.
And there's still some in the Northeast. There's
Yes.
quite a- yeah. Probably like 20, 30 grand. The question is, what is the average price of a restoration at your shop?
I don't think I want to talk about the price and hours. Yeah. You know, I personally avoided looking at the reality of the situation, so my secretary kept a running total of hours and dollars and where it went, the spreadsheets. I got seasick when I looked at it. It always bothered me, so I avoided it. So I'm afraid I don't have an answer there. It got stupid. It got stupid. Yeah, it
Yeah,
got stupid.
I've restored over 50 cars, nothing like a Duesenberg, but I estimated it usually took me about 2,000 hours to do, and I don't think that's a crazy number, but so, you know, depending on what the shop rate is, that should tell you something. But as you alluded to, it's so impossible. You know, people have always said to me, why don't you start a restoration shop? You do all these restorations. I was like, no, I don't want to go out of business and go broke. I don't know how you can, you know, people want to know what's it gonna, how do you estimate? You don't know. Okay, I'll estimate it for you, but tell me how rusty is that bolt that holds the, you know, the body onto the frame? And tell me all these, answer these questions, and I'll give you an estimate. But you can't do it.
We just finished a Auburn Speedster, and the gentleman is a very nice guy. He'd owned the car over 20 years. I'd helped him buy it from the gal who claimed she bought it new, but she didn't. It had been in a bad accident. The frame was bent, the left frame wheel was bent back 1.5 inches, and the wood was shot. And he came to us saying the wood's fine. Of course, how would he know? He never tore it all apart and looked at it. So we pulled it apart, and then we ended up taking all the sheet metal off, replacing the wood, straightening the frame. And every little thing we looked at, even the gear shift handle was in kind of a weird, not straight by any means. So we had to even make a new gear shift handle. So everything became then a challenge. And of course, we're communicating with him all through this process, but you know, all he's seeing is checks, you know. And nice guy, never complained. But, you know, said, you know, I didn't know that it was going to cost me this much. And I said, neither did I. And there's no way of telling.
Yeah, customers just don't understand. And unless you do a restoration, you don't understand the process.
I can't tell you what year it was. And Jay said, well, you know, bring it down front of the hotel on Friday night, and he'll fly into Monterey and come over, and he wants to take a drive. He's a little nervous about this process. He's never done any restoration, and he'd not been playing with cars that long. Didn't have that many cars at that point in time. So we did, and Mavis, his wife, walked up to it and literally started backing up. She said, that is so stunning. This is a two-tone blue LeBaron dual cal fit with the top up. So it's like 10 o'clock at night. He's finished the Tonight Show and ran over to Burbank and flew on up. And he says, well, let's take it for a drive. Okay, yeah, you know, we're only a block away to our garage. So, and this is Friday night. So he jumps in it and we take off. Well, Jay, it's right, left here. Oh, no, I want to go a little bit further. No, I want to go a little bit further. we did the whole 18-mile drive. We got off into the dirt. We got hit by sprinklers. We finally got, like 45 minutes later, we got back to the hotel room, or to the garage, and the guys are looking at me like, what the hell happened? The chrome wire wheels are filthy, and we had everything ready to go. We had to start over. And then every day we roll it out. So all day Saturday, onto the field, Sunday morning. And every day we roll it out, it's overcast, cloudy, can't see anything. We get down on the show field, and it is bright sun, and that car is streaked like you wouldn't believe. So, yes, thanks, Jay. Yeah.
So one of the first times I went there, he asked me, he says, do you want to drive any cars? And I instantly said, McLaren F1. And he says, all right, let me warm it up. So a McLaren F1 is a three-seater, so you got a center and two seats kind of behind. And so we head out. He has this loop up through this canyon, and you know the loop, and yeah, and on the San Diego freeway. And so he punches it, and I've been in some fast cars, but it took my breath away. It was surprising. It was so wow. So he pulls over, and I take the wheel, and we get up on the freeway, and we're going about 85 miles an hour. He says, well, go, punch it, go. And I said, dude, you know, I'm on a public road here, and, you know, going 85 or 90, that thing, nah, don't worry, they won't bother you. And I said, wait a minute, they won't bother you, I'm nobody, they're not gonna bother me. So we are going along closer to like 100, 105, and a McLaren F1 feels like you're going 40 at 105 miles an hour. It is crazy. And this car full of kids, let's say it's a ratty LTD kind of car, and these are rough-looking kids, and they come roaring up beside us, and they flip. Jay's on the left seat here, and they flip him off. And I look over, and Jay flips them off. And then I start thinking, it's like, you know, I'm a kid that grew up in a Ford dealership, and I'm on the San Diego freeway in a McLaren F1 going over 100 miles an hour, and sitting next to Jay Leno, and he's flipping kids off, an old LTD. And I was like, wow, my life has gotten weird. All right, we have anything else, or all right?
So avail yourself of that opportunity. Thank you.
The castle cart, yeah. That is the last remaining. When I first got into this a couple weeks ago, 45 years ago, there were like 22 Duesenbergs still in the hands of original owners. That is the last car still in the hands of the original owners. Even though it is grandchildren, it's still the same family. Castle took delivery of that car in 1922 in Indianapolis, and he was a big guy. We have lots of pictures of him standing there, reaching out, holding the wheel. He sent it back in 29 and had a bunch of updates. They put a Model J steering wheel and gear and control in it, Model J wheels and brakes on it, and a central lubrication system. And it existed from that way for there on. Now he died, the original owner died in like 50, and the car came to Monterey area in like 65 or 6, and this is the third generation that sold it recently, but they've had it ever since. I was hired by Canepa to consult on that car and talk them into bringing it all back, getting rid of all the updates and bringing it all back to what it looked like when it was delivered in 22. So, because it had Model J wheels, Model Y steering wheel. So we made a set of headlights. We supplied them with drawings for the bumpers. So it was all done, original rear spare bracket, original wheels and tires and brakes and backing plates. All of that was done. And then I was off, I had enough and got off the project, but that's the way they finished it. And it did a beautiful job. They donated it, yes. They donated it for a $4.5 million tax deduction. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to
my
thank
pleasure.
Wayne for inviting us. And
And I'm surprised at Rob. I was expecting some real heckling out of that boy. I've been giving him trouble lately, so. Yeah. Oh, is that it? Okay.
We appreciate the way everyone's behaved. We appreciate our great speakers. Just a quick thing on Jimmy Castle's car, the Duesenberg #1. I was fortunate enough to see that during restoration, including the wormholes in the frame and everything, and the lubrication system, and then saw it on the field when it came to Pebble, and what a transformation. So we're very, very fortunate to have Randy here and have his great history in this hobby sport industry, whatever you call it, and having Tim coming all the way out from Florida with all of his knowledge and his ability to interview people. And we hope that this speaker series will continue. It seems like we're having a good attendance, and the first session went well, and I feel like this session went extremely well. So look for more to come in the future, and we'll try to work it out. For your schedule, just now that I have an opportunity to survey you, is this time work for you during your day at the concours? Because we were thinking the mornings and trying to get all this done before any big activity starts. So I will remind you that at 1:15 we're going to fire up the dragster. You probably won't miss that no matter where you are. And at 1:30 we're going to fire up the 100-year-old authentic race cars, and they're going to go over to this track, which you access right over here. You can barely see the sign there. We have a little dirt track set up, and we're going to do a race exhibition, and we'll take you back 100 years in time. It's really fascinating. So again, thank you to our speaker and our moderator, and for all of you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.